The Honorable Akwesi Kunedu, Deputy Ranking Lands and Natural Resources, and after Sosansi MP Emma Menchia North. You know, ending komo enfa ho non fa yenko suku kakra na yehu de ekone de ba. Indeed, if truly that 10% royalty na ye no assign ye na no bi atwam wo no anaso say nye 5% na ba no so anaso say nye na eni hu nkomo na afi yemra ti so na what me nka me akwa ba e ma wache e ba Kessben 92.9 na face so Kessben TV so
me am wache me te wonka me ditu so so te me nka
me te wonka pa na me gidi yesu say umpo mu ye bibia so e boko de
oh we jana domo de adomi ahode wo ho yasora no pe ketema da abodwe mu bi na yim se bibia be ko yesu de ama nyame tumi nti
that's it. Honorable, maybe sir, this question it might sound very straight, but I need to ask. I didn't na Parliament a moshemra atena se na emrada mwanim a kache mo se eye royalties die ye 5% na matena se ahwe na motumi afa ekwan foforo so eji obi 10% of royalties eba ne saying
menu ya mame na wase na menchi ahwefo ne atifo anope edikaino on the 20th of October 2023 agreement yene Barari DVSIN. This is a copy of it.
Okay.
The new agreement dated 20th October. This is the first one I signed.
Okay.
As a seal, BBI also and the for ratification. 20th October 2023. This is the new document. Seal BNSO. I the Abraham of Parliament. And also dated 20th October 2025. Minya, Bibia niwa was a na illegal, and I'm talking about the first document that was presented by my minister.
Okay.
By Parliament.
Okay.
There is nothing in this document that is illegal.
The one that has a seal, right?
The one that has a seal. And no not 10%. And I'll show you why there is nothing in this that is illegal. Hey? Say you di sebi, and I'm using that in generic terms. So when we say what di, abro almost for 1.5 years. We care about NDC. We to see a do abro 1.5 years. And that we should not hide under idea. Yena if be interpreted the constitution said something is illegal. They are not part of the bench to tell us that there is something illegal in this, and there is nothing illegal in the document that we brought. And I'm going to show you in just 3 ways.
Okay.
First, the Constitution in Article 11 say the laws of this country Ghana emrenyina say etie enie. It talks about the Constitution first before it talks about Act of Parliament. Second. Then the Constitution again says, in Article 1, Clause 2, that the Constitution shall be the supreme law of Ghana, and any other law found to be inconsistent with any provision of that Constitution, to the extent of the inconsistency, shall be null and void. Say Ghana, yes, Rafu act, customary law, say a case law, and there be not a Ghana na kunya constitution or coin be aswa. To that extent, that emrano inconsistent. There's the 8 million enter constitution. That is the first one. Second one, all acts of parliament be pass to give effect and a guide to the implementation of the constitution, because constitution ankasano enini etini more no, and I'm quite be bracing the beginning. Some of it in act, allies, constitutional instrument, executive instrument. Minina shem rekune nasi. And a constitution is I can be. Article 2681. Or say, Obia oba betu a good year woman yimu natural resources. ɛno ɛfɔm agudie count gold, magnesium, bauxite, diamond, ɛnɛ lithium ni nyinaa count ɛnkyene nsuo ni nyinaa no that agreement no and it states that contract shall be ratified by parliament. It is one farmer parliament sa contract na woni aban eye no one way or the other no yenyin tum enyin so papa, and that has been established also in the case of Eastern Quebec, that without parliamentary ratification of all contracts enyin so papa it ye we no ye the ba parliament say yenyin tum. Now we bisa question say Ghana's Minerals and Mining Act of 2006, 703, and as amended in 2010, 794.
Yes.
Section 25, Eka Simbi say, the royalties that shall be paid, that is in the amended one, shall be 5%. So Eka and one were new. On when it means that act in means say into your Yenisana, Kona Kwai Wajuma. It then tells you, say, Fabra, Parliament. For Parliament to do ratification of it. And I've said this and I'll say this again. Parliament is the first bastion of hope for this country. And no na yenya so a de arishemu kase be mo mining na. It is a bibi ade be bia parliament in sasomu a ye wo ho akwanya se ye dani mu sane yisipe. The act no is forming a guide and a base for you say when timi anya hwe amo mine no and by 5%. And they did that. The first one in 703 was between 3 and 6%, which means Obi betima 3, Obi betima 4. And into a say any Ebian any panel nuises any and a quartano. My young Chimuan say any panning and 5 and a buy. Minia, you cannot sign an agreement out of parliament. Would it be biashim? Parliament ratifies that, and somebody sits there and tell you, said that is an illegal agreement. One can ask them, how can the if Parliament doesn't rectify, even if you put in 0, even if you put in 100, that cannot be a binding agreement between the state, that is the government of Ghana, and any other person. How they call arbitration, how they call court to be an sebi. They bet na so. Na yemi anuma who say, Omano Kasa. And if you go clause by clause of the 2003 contract, there is nothing that is different in it from the current one on Monday, but apart from the date, any the benefits that will come to this country. Now the mayor who need Intia say, be illegal, an afterthought by our brothers on the other side, and this is the reason. Just about 2 weeks ago, when the minister brought us this document in Parliament, you will say they have reduced or sebi sikabotina ebenya in terms of royalties and nananumewo central region awoya winiban fansiman ebenya dia free 10 dia ko 5 no. When the question was posed to the minister, if you recall, the answer or the mayini or say a good dear no aye betu ne bo wodwa amanoni dwa so no aba fom enu ti no motor royalties no so dia ma campaign no asmo ka enu no agudie ne bo aba fom enu ti no motor so minia e fom agudie bia ni wa enkosoro ma fom edwatonde bia ni wa ne bo enkosoro ma fom. So if you are telling me say the first reason is because the price of lithium on the international market above fom ntino and yet so be about 5%. A new explanation back. The second explanation is almost illegal. Enuntino. I was here sister Ghana Mrana act no. Tio. And this is Ghana Mrana act and sign yet me 10%. Ediako. Minia. Fanny and Lucy and Ninebusa who say. Says I mu we me near dear Maya. Many of your mokan. Where lies the illegality in it? Because the price above from anything at Swamomo. I feel that this is a some recunino and sign at Swamomo. Minia, there's nothing like that in it. But you may if you go to where royalties is stated in this document,
Kessben 92.9.
That is point 20 in the document. Or see, A, the company shall pay to the government royalty as prescribed by law, or as may be agreed between the company and the government. And I say, the company in your buying budget to and on Bitia. Minia, on budget the hen at home. The other call 10%. Usi dra, a man only just to boaba for Muto Teso. And yes, I saw Bessis and Ghana and Ransan with Niaji. But how can the act? How can the act be super than the Constitution Article 268 verse 1? And I want to read that parliamentary ratification of agreements relating to natural resources. That is what the Constitution says. Any transaction, TNE, contract, or undertaking involving the grant of a right or concession by or on behalf of any person, including the government of Ghana, to any other person or body whatsoever described for the exploration of any mineral, water, or other natural resources of Ghana made or entered into or after the coming into force of this constitution shall be subject to ratification of parliament. Into this contract or the ban, the parliament begia to no. Because parliament is an establishment of the constitution and the third arm of governance. Parliament and a so you can't come go and tell me, say, oh, minister, what's now, baby? Why are you then bringing it to parliament? So are you telling me, say, once you bring to parliament the watcher woman and you are basing your argument on, say, a acting into that should form the basis. I don't know what's your G2. We should not touch it and interrogate any money idea. And you know, say, if you sign this, give it to them, any company, and let them take it anywhere money idea, maybe be banned. Because of parliament hasn't ratified it, it is not law, and it can be thrown out as estin cubicles. Now, there was nothing illegal in this. That is why all natural resources demand, and I say demand, the ratification of parliament. Once parliament ratifies that, and look, this agreement, was not entered into under fraud. Say, the ketasi sene guapayo boni bi eni ehunehuna womo eno mo de ye ana under duress. Say ma yam fa 10% and shima yam fa mama money ade. Because they have a right to set aside, say we are not going into it. All of it were signed. If you look at it, everything in it was signed both by government of Ghana, represented by the minister, and also by the company. So a voluntary agreement that they've entered into, knowing very well the laws of Ghana and knowing very well, say, if parliament ratification is not sought, near more 1% to cry the same one, it cannot be said to be valid. And they agreed to it. And look, when we were signing this agreement, the international price for lithium was not 5,000 or 3,000. It was just in the hundreds, over and above about $650. And there I know, say, minister can say, inti ama no of a so your press conference saying, you 5%. And they say, the price of lithium was just about 570. The difference between the two men should be just about 100 and something. It is going back up, just like any other commodity on the world market. So if your argument, and it's the same say, because the price has come down, and it's a major the price is no cost. Are you going to bring it back to parliament and tell us the price no cost with 10%? You've given it to them for 15 years. Look, when you change the law, the Minerals and Mining Act now could change it one. What is it going to happen to the other mining companies in this country? Are you going to tell them, say, Miniano, Ghana has changed its laws, and Nuntino, my yanko, not the same Mumutia 5%, Mumana Mutia 10%. Remember, our constitution says we cannot pass any legislation, any law that will take retrospective implementation. HSA, Senegana Semra, na Enra, Adiabi Kosu, na Enya, won't mean train quietly, and Kokase and Yasemran, but 10 years ago. Contract be a year, Musa 5, it was 10. So one company where the constitution guides you, clothes you, so you can always at any point in time when it comes to natural resources You can go into an agreement, bring it to Parliament with the terms and conditions. Parliament when they ratify, and that becomes law. You are going to change that one under the cover of Niama Maya Muama, who said, look, I led the discussion on this at some part in Parliament. When the committee sat, and Nananu came from Awoya, came from Fantiman, came from the central region to the committee with the company. No more penny phone now. When this agreement led by my minister at that time, all of these things were seen in it. You've deprived the people of Awoya for over 1.5 years. Today you are now coming to tell us that it was an illegal agreement. You are only telling us now again that if you don't change the act, which is subservient to the constitution now, we cannot charge them 10%. It is a lie. That is not the truth. It is an untruth for them to tell us, say, if you don't change Article Section 25 of Act 794, you cannot charge 10%. The Constitution mandates us to charge any rate that is negotiated between those two companies and the government of Ghana and bring it to Parliament for ratification, and that becomes a binding agreement or a contract between government of Ghana and that company. So
if I understand what you're saying, what it means is that the act can tell you that okay, yenje 5%, 3% or something, but the same constitution that gave birth to acts can also tell you, say, you can equally sit with the said institution or organization and renegotiate the percentage you want to take from them. I just want to understand that.
That is the point I'm trying to tell you, because the Constitution mandates that in Article 268 that whatever so-called to be an agreement, contract, intention to grant concession, so the former Gudiema will be so unkotuno. You must bring it to Parliament for ratification. One can't just say, once the act mandates, now only because you see, all of these things will be done. So, you'll be guided by the act for implementation. But the finality and the validity, that is the point you must bear in mind. Finality, send a pay and the validity is found in Article 268, but not in Act 703 or 794. Because all the act now the consign contract now my parliament, it is null and void by the Estin cubic and the interpretation of Article 268 by the Constitution that was done by the Supreme Court. So nobody can tell me, and nobody should behave say, oh yeah, an authority in the constitutional interpretation, and therefore because acting, because you need the acting frames. And let me give you one classical example again.
Yes, let me be some next question.
When Parliament passed Act 992, that is the Companies Act of Ghana.
Yes.
And Tekra.
Yes, Mekai.
One Edu Jefi sent a case to court saying, there is a portion of the act that frowns on the Constitution. It frowns on the Constitution, said a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. It may not when I didn't come in. You can be charged. It doesn't mean you are guilty. It is an act, at the same say somebody who has been charged of an offense ain't mean a company director. It frowns on the Constitution, fair trial, fundamental human rights, and innocence until proven guilty. Ain't Supreme Court ain't no fenina Ghana mrekuni na your Constitution and per Supreme Court transfer audit to say the Constitution is supreme. So the act cannot purport to say when somebody is charged or you're guilty, it won't mean holding an office of a director of a company. They strike that one out and made the Constitution supreme. So how can you tell me that because the act, is giving a guiding principle, said that we cannot go low of 5%. But whenever you write that agreement, bring it to Parliament for ratification. If you bring a document to Parliament, the Parliament is seized with it. We can modify it, change it, ratify it, or take it back to you. Say, so you cannot tell me, say, what 5 and you are basing your argument on an act that mandates you to go and negotiate, but don't negotiate less than that. If you don't have that capacity to negotiate higher, now don't come and say illegal, because that person and the minister found it necessary under Article 268 to do that and bring it to Parliament for ratification, for it to be binding on the country and the company. So they cannot go less than the 10%.
All right. So again, is the minister right in coming to all of us to say, sir, eye jumekuo no ababe huyen? I request to say they want to review the lease terms, and then due to significant drop in global lithium prices in which is affecting the project viability in we need to relook into it. So it makes sense for the minister now to say, okay, because of that, and the same keyword that you just gave me, ratification, I want to reduce it to 5%. If everything goes well, we can increase it further. And no ewo. 2. Me pese Ghana fo nya so te ase say, are we then saying say mo ankasa eye mrahye bedwo mo hye yen na se mo ma ye acts that really deals with agencies and deals with air bodies and so mo hye manema bi ko yie na mo de emra bi hihye mu se ebia sei ene sese mo ye a ebedu parliament a mo ankasa so tumi tena se esan ehihye no foforo without going back to the same process of getting it done in the act ana.
First one, it's oyemo ansho emra all kind the reasons that the minister gave you. Let me ask you a very simple question. So if this document had passed, which ought to have passed last year, would the campaign had come? When gold prices were that low, and then a gold prices cost low. When gold prices were that low, companies, Newmont, Perseus, Asanko, Ashanti Gold, did any of them come back to the minister to renegotiate and reduce the price of royalty, another percentage of royalties down? On company be our baby catcher buying say, and then a unicorn for Muntin, Messer said, Monte royalties and Mutiama buying and then anonymous. And the gold prices at all-time high. All-time high. What is that? Any of the companies Abba catcher are buying say, and they send your gold prices AC was wrong. Minianum. Yes, sir, Bani any buy negotiation for folk. Now agreement in your contract in any buying sign 5% they cut 10%. What be that? What it? So if the minister comes to tell us that Oyamonso, that the company came to him and told us, said government, and then Mr. Monte because prices only lithium is a green mineral. A green mineral.
Okay.
One of the green minerals that we have now.
Okay.
The world is seeking after it. Let nobody lie to us. Whatever the intent was, 5%. It can only be explained by the minister. But me and Thomasu.
Okay, maybe currently, all the minerals production cost with all the organizations how much are they paying?
They are paying 5% per the law.
They are paying 5% per the law.
Yes, that is what was negotiated for. It is a nano. Opposite 10% by the law. Opposite 10% by the law. Let me ask you: would they come back and pay 10%, or they will still hold on to the 5%, which is in the ratified agreement between them and the company?
But you did talk about ratification where you can equally come back again and say that, listen, this is what it is for me now. So for us to do this. But hold on for me, the Honorable Richard Echampo, MP Bia East, and then second deputy majority whip our line. So we see equally a member of the Lands and Natural Resource and also line also via Zoom, and then let's have a good discussion on this one too.
1 minute to explain or point now here and answer.
Okay.
We will not go back to them because in the agreement, it states the lease, is granted for a term of 15 years.
Yes.
All leases are given specific 20 years, 15 years, 25 years.
Okay.
You cannot come back and say yes, I'm from Parliament to ratify that agreement. So what you negotiate on what about Parliament? Parliament has the right to inquire into it and even change those figures. And my senior brother will confer to that.
Okay, very well. Until hold on, Mami. Now,